I am back. We are talking about perfect competition today. Welcome back to Economics 2010. We're talking about perfect comp. This is Economics 2010, Snow College. My name's Dr. Jamison. Please call me Wes. This shouldn't be such a difficult video today. In fact, I think it's rather short, but we'll get started. We'll see what you think, and we'll go from there. The great thing in talking about perfect competition is that the Olympics are starting next month. So we get to see perfect competition in its most perfect form in things like rowing and weightlifting and pickup basketball, which is interesting. Surfing is now a sport, I guess. It's not a hobby anymore, it's a sport. But yes, perfect competition coming to your Tokyo Olympics very soon. The first question we need to answer for ourselves is, what is quote unquote perfect competition, right? And in economics, we define perfect competition as a market, right? And this market will have lots and lots of buyers and sellers. The goods will be relatively identical. There should be, this is an interesting one, relatively entry to the market and exit from the market should be relatively easy. We call this low barriers of entry and exit. And another key point of this is all the buyers and sellers will have complete information. That means that the buyers will know every little bit about what's inside the ingredient list. They will know what it tastes like or what they're buying in terms of, like, I don't know, a radio of some sort. So again, identical goods, large numbers of buyers and sellers, ease of entry and exit, and complete information. Let me ask you a question. Does this actually exist? Do you think that perfect, quote unquote, perfect competition actually exists in the economy today? I think the answer is probably not. It does not exist. There's nowhere where we can. I mean, there's a couple places, and we'll talk about them, where we get pretty close. But the hard part, of course, is the identical goods, finding goods that are completely identical to each other, and complete information. Because most markets have lots of buyers and sellers, and most people can start a business or leave the business market pretty easily. But the complete information for the buyer or the seller to know everything, and identical goods, are very, very difficult. So these very strict definitions, it's not as simple as it appears to be. I mean, if we just look at the Olympics, right? I mean, look, this is a meme, right? It's totally a meme. But people who cheat during the Olympics, everybody, right? So, I mean, how fair is this perfect competition that we're going to watch in a month? Does perfect competition actually exist? There was this thing that my grandpa used to say. It's weird because I just got back from visiting him. He used to say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And I think it's hilarious, but it actually fits here with the Olympics. I don't know. Do you think that most Olympians, do you think that most professional sports aren't cheating? These are questions that we should ask, especially when we're dealing with perfect competition. Even for some of you that think that, like, the Olympics is like the pinnacle of all sports. Look, there's a great book on this by Naomi Shavin. She writes about the ancient history of cheating in the Olympics, and I think it's an absolutely incredible book, especially if you study economics or just sports in general. But she really goes in depth about how these Olympians would cheat even from the very beginning. So yeah, I mean, it's been around for a while. If we get to the nuts and bolts, though, of what perfect competition is in economics, it's simply this. And this is the really interesting part, because for a long time we have seen that demand curves and supply curves usually meet in a cross. But when we talk in economics about perfect competition, this makes it really simple, because we think about things like this. This is a graph about radishes, right? You're a firm and you're selling radishes, and you're trying to wonder what's the demand and what's the price. Well, in perfect competition, we consider this to be a straight line. And that means something very easy for you to know as a student, right? And this will change, of course, when we get to monopoly, which is another thing. But for perfect competition, demand, marginal revenue, average revenue, and price are all the same number. They are all the same number. And this makes sense to a certain degree, too. You see here that, like, if I'm a producer and I'm going to, let's say I make radishes, right? I grow radishes and I make this much. Here is the price. But if I make this much, does the price change according to how much I make? No, it doesn't, because radishes don't. First of all, radishes are disgusting. Personal opinion. I hope I don't get angry comments from that. But yes, radishes are not great. But I have a few more points to make about this. Let me show you. So, like I was saying, like here is the industry. Like here's the entire industry of, let's say, vegetables, right? You do see supply and demand crisscross, like we've learned in the previous chapters. But for perfect competition, when we look at just the firm itself, I'm the producer. I grow radishes. I grow radishes, okay? But if you look right here, here is where marginal cost and average cost, and here is our perfect quantity, because we don't want to sell, we don't want to go less quantity because it'll make our average cost go up. We don't want to sell more quantity because it'll make our average cost go up. And we want to sell exactly where marginal cost equals average cost, and therefore our demand is flat. Our demand is flat, okay? That's a pretty particularly, that is definitely something you should know, especially for the concept questions this week. The best examples of this are, so it's hard to go into Best Buy and be like, oh, this is a perfect market. It's hard to go, it's like, because it's so difficult, but the best examples are often found in farmers markets. This is actually the farmers market in Manti, where I live. We go, my girlfriend and I, we go every Saturday in the summer, and there's often very good cheeses and peppers and little canned goods. We like the little canned goods. They're very delicious. And the cheese, they make very good cheeses too. This is literally a picture from the Manti Farmers Market. If you're around Manti and it's before 11, you should definitely stop by. But back to the whole point, right? Perfect competition. Why do we see perfect competition in farmers markets? Well, first of all, they sell things like produce, right? They're selling things like produce. And produce is like this, right? Like a peach is a peach is a peach is a peach, right? There's not much difference between peaches. And thus, you can't have one little farmer's crate selling peaches for, I don't know, $20 a bushel and have another selling for $6 a bushel, because the people are going to go to the $6 and the person selling for 20 is like, why does nobody want my peaches? Well, that's because everything is brought down to the same price so that you can stay alive in the business. And because it's so easy to grow, like, I mean, I'm not going to say it's so easy, but it's easier to grow peaches than to, say, start a nuclear reactor or, build a radio from scratch, mass produce it and sell it at Best Buy. Because it's so easy to get in and out of this market, people are all driven by one price. And we call this price taking. And price taking is decided by the market. And the market, again, supply and demand, has everything to do with you, the buyer, and the producer, right? It's very interesting that prices early on in the morning could be a little bit higher. But as the day wears on, the heat starts, and maybe the peaches start to get a little mushy, the prices might actually come down a little bit, because they are trying to clear the market. They're trying to get everybody to buy all the peaches they can. And this is interesting too when you think about things like, I don't know, like what about, let me get myself out of the way here. When you think about things like ice cream, right? If ice cream trucks were selling ice cream for, I don't know, $50,000 a cone, who would buy it? Who would buy that ice cream cone? So ice cream is another like universal market that we could say like, well, ice cream prices tend to be all the same because there's not a whole lot of difference there. Sure. I do think better flavors exist. Creamier ice cream may or may not exist, but the price, it's not going to change that much. Even if you have literally the freaking creamiest ice cream in the world, you're only going to charge maybe a buck more than average price. And this is important because the market is so competitive for ice cream and goods like fruits that we call these perfect markets. That's because they are price taking. They are taking the price that the market deems to be the price for that good. Now, that was in the short run, okay? So if we think about it in the long run, we have to think about two separate concepts. And we kind of hit on this a little bit in last week's video, but this idea versus accounting profit versus economic profit, right? And this is how we think in the long run, right? So first of all, I want to differentiate these two thoughts and these two ideas. First of all, accounting profit is profit from the financials. It's literally like, did more money go into my bank account this month versus last month? And, you know, did I cover my costs? This usually involves things like receipts and invoices, dollar bill signs. There's approximately, I don't know, $15 bill signs right there. But the interesting thing is, when we think about things in economics, economic profit, by the way, that little pie symbol is what we call profit in economics. Economic profit deals with, yes, of course it deals with financials. We want to know things like receipts and invoices as well. But we also we call these explicit costs, but we also deal with something called implicit costs, which is things like what we could have done instead. Of course, you remember this as opportunity costs, right? What we could have done instead. So instead of, I don't know, growing a entire orchard of peach trees, what else could I have done with my life that may have made me more money? And really, if you think that nothing else would have made me more money, then you were in the right place. You were doing the right thing. And this is something that we need to be thinking about constantly as we go through our lives. I mean, like, not a lot of you guys will probably grow up to be economists, but these are tools that you could use for the rest of your life. Like, whenever you start a venture, you have to realize that there are several other things that you could possibly do. And it's good to take those things into an account, right? To think, what else could I do with my time that may make me more money, may provide me more happiness? And this, of course, includes weird things too, like, and this is purely economist thinking, but like, what is the price of, I don't know, crime or cheating in the Olympics, right? Does the fame that you get from winning that gold medal, but eventually that gold medal will be stripped from you because of your cheating, is it worth it? You know? And these are things that economists think about. There's actually a whole study on this in game theory that deals with both crime and cheating. Very interesting stuff. But yes, this is the difference. And when we think about the long term, we have to think about economic profit. And when we say that economic profit is zero, that's an okay thing. That means that we are no better off doing anything else, that we can keep doing exactly what we're doing and still be okay. As a matter of fact, like, Americans, like, this month and for the past 3 months, they've been thinking about this. And more, we are seeing more Americans quit their jobs than ever before. They are taking into account these ideas of opportunity costs and economic profit, and they're asking themselves, am I doing what I was meant to be doing? And we are seeing more and more that Americans are changing their minds. As a matter of fact, millions of Americans are quitting their jobs in greater rates than we've ever seen. And it's not just this article. There's so many articles. People are quitting their jobs in record numbers. Companies should take note and treat them better. They want more money. Everybody is quitting their job. And right now, I'm reading that this is a good thing. I am concerned. I do have concerns. My girlfriend and I went to a restaurant the other day, and the service was not so great. But that's because there was nobody working. Nobody wanted to actually serve tables. So these are all like opportunity costs and opportunities that we're missing. But the interesting thing is this good or bad for our country? I don't know yet. A lot of economists are saying yes, but I don't know. I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Please comment. Let me know what you think. Sure. Yeah. That's what I have for you guys this week. Those are the important things that I thought we should talk about in terms of competitive markets. I know your book has a lot of math. Again, I'm not going to focus on the math. I want to focus on the concepts. I think you should learn a couple basic equations from the book, total revenue and the average revenue. Those kinds of things are very simple equations that I think you guys might need to think about for the final, but that could all be found in Chapter 7. Next week, we're talking about monopoly power, one of my absolute most favorite economic concepts, and I'm going to try to help you out with your essay that is due next week. But you guys have a great week. I hope your week is great. Please contact me for anything. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I got some really good comments last time, so I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys next week.